Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, Deputy Mayor.
I had to change my background. I had the town hall background on my background, so
We hadn't noticed.
I didn't think so. Yes.
You should try some new filters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Council, we're just having a couple technical difficulties here. We'll start in just a moment.
All right.
Ready? Okay. Good evening. We will call the City Council meeting for March 15th, 2021 to order. Per Governor Inslee's Emergency Proclamation 20-28 and Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery Plan, the City of Auburn is prohibited from holding in-person meetings at this time. City of Auburn Resolution Number 5581 designates City of Auburn meeting locations for all regular, special, and study session meetings of the City Council and of the committees, boards, and commissions of the city as virtual locations until Washington's governor authorizes local governments to conduct in-person meetings. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And Sean, will you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor DeCoursey,
Here.
Councilmember Baggett,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Jayrush.
Here.
Councilmember Malinga,
Here.
Councilmember Stearns,
Here.
Councilmember Trot Manuel.
Here.
All right. Thank you. And council, this evening, we are going to go into executive session first on our agenda. City Council to hold an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101I for potential litigation. The executive session is expected to last 30 minutes. And at this time, council, I believe you have your link. So you will leave this meeting, you will exit out of this meeting, and then you will utilize the link that you have for the executive session. I am going to do the same, and I'm going to move into another room, so I will join you shortly. If you have any questions or comments, Danica is here to help you through moving into the executive session. Thank you. Oh, okay. We have 4, 5. Six. Six. Yeah. We'll begin in just a moment. We're making sure that we have all of council members in. Good. All right. We will call the meeting back to order. Thank you for those of you who have been waiting for your patience. We have tonight some proclamations. There's actually one that is not on the agenda that we have as well. But the first proclamation this evening is one that we are very proud of. And you will notice that we have a guest with us tonight, Mark Smith from the Auburn Medical Center, as we celebrate its 100th anniversary. That's the centennial celebration. So Mark, welcome. It is great to see you. I look forward to the day that we are not meeting as flat panels,
Right.
but that we can once again meet in person, especially since we are so close in proximity. But we do have a proclamation that I would like to read tonight. And then Mark, if you have any comments, we would love to hear from you. All right. Proclamation. Whereas in 1921, the Taylor Lacey Hospital opened at 202 North Division Street in Auburn after founding physicians Owen Taylor and Martin Lacey addressed a growing need in the community. The hospital offered state-of-the-art technologies for its time, including a dedicated operating room, a nursery, and the area's first emergency ambulance. It was staffed with 8 nurses and 2 doctors. And whereas in 1940, the hospital name changed to Auburn General Hospital and gained accreditation from the Joint Commission of Hospitals. And whereas in the 1960s, the entire hospital building was remodeled and added a new south wing, which included a newborn nursery, emergency services, and an expanded surgical department. And whereas in 1982, Auburn General Hospital was purchased by a subsidiary of Universal Health Services Incorporated, and the hospital name changed to Auburn Regional Medical Center. Construction was completed on a 2-story diagnostic services wing that provided new and more efficient space for radiology, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, MRIs, mammography, laboratory, and cardiopulmonary services. And whereas in 2012, MultiCare Health Systems assumed ownership of Auburn Regional Medical Center. The hospital name changed to MultiCare Auburn Medical Center. MultiCare made major investments to the facility, including to the emergency department, family birth center, and the behavioral health unit, and build a new central utility plant and cardiac catheterization lab, among many other major infrastructure improvements. And whereas MultiCare Health Systems continues to invest in Auburn Medical Center and join with the community to partner for healing and a healthy future. And whereas the City of Auburn takes special notice and acknowledges the exceptional health services MultiCare Auburn Medical Center has provided the residents of Auburn and surrounding communities for the past 100 years. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim 2021 as MultiCare Auburn Medical Center 100th Centennial Celebration in the City of Auburn, and urge all residents to join with me to recognize and commend the efforts of the board, physicians, nurses, employees, volunteers, and friends of MultiCare Auburn Medical Center and celebrate their 100th anniversary of providing exceptional care, dated this 15th day of March, 2021. Mark, congratulations. You don't look 100. I will tell you that. But
Thank
if
you,
you have
Mayor.
some words that you would like to share with us, we would love to hear from you.
Wonderful. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Mayor. On behalf of our physicians, our staff, and our board, some of whom I think may be with us tonight, we'd like to thank you, Deputy Mayor DeCoursey, and each of the members of the City Council for your gracious and continuous ongoing support of MultiCare and Auburn Medical Center. For a lot of years, we worked to build on a very strong partnership between the city and the hospital. And we are certainly looking forward to continuing that work on a variety of initiatives to improve the health and the well-being of our communities now and into the future. I'd be remiss tonight if I failed to acknowledge Pat Bailey, who, as many of you know, was a leader at Auburn Medical Center for most of her career. We would not be where we are today had it not been for her work. And we're just so thankful for her many years of service at the hospital and her continuing work at the city. Over this last year, as we've all faced COVID, we've been grateful for the strong support from the city of Auburn, all of our first responders, and from the community as a whole. I know that our physicians and nurses and all of our staff face this pandemic on a number of levels that many of us can never imagine. And we can say with a lot of pride that not one of them has wavered despite all of the unknowns and the personal fears. They've been there every day, and our communities recognize that, and you've supported us through donations of food and supplies, through thank you to our staff and your cheers and smiles behind the masks. So we are just so deeply grateful to have been a part of this community for the past 100 years. And we look forward to being a part of this community for at least another 100. So thank you, Mayor, for your proclamation. And we thank you most of all for our valued partnership with the city of Auburn.
Thank you, Mark. And if you would please share our appreciation from the city of Auburn for your community partnership, as well as the wonderful medical care that is provided by your doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, and especially those who may go unthanked sometimes, that are taking care of cleaning and providing food. And they sometimes, we don't realize what they do until they don't do it. And so the recognition of their service is incredibly important to us as well.
Thank you, Mayor, and we will certainly do that.
Thank you so much. Happy anniversary. All right, our next proclamation, and I will tell you the next two proclamations this evening have been requested by our council members. This one is from Councilmember Stearns, and we did it last year. Tammy reminded me, and we do have it on the calendar for, we put together an annual calendar. So Councilmember Stearns, you won't even need to ask next year. It'll be ready to go. So this proclamation is, whereas problem gambling is a public health issue affecting millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds that has a significant societal and economic cost for individuals, families, businesses, and communities. And whereas research indicates that thousands of adults and adolescents in Washington state have experienced gambling problems in their lives. And whereas problem gambling is treatable and treatment is effective in minimizing this harm to both individuals and society as a whole. And whereas numerous professionals, individuals, and nonprofit organizations have dedicated their efforts to the education of the public about problem gambling and the availability and effectiveness of treatment. And whereas it is important that the gambling industry and the mental health, primary care treatment, and recovery communities join together to increase public awareness of problem gambling, its high co-occurrence with anxiety and substance use disorders, and to take measures to address this addiction. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim March 2021 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month and encourage all residents to learn more about the signs of problem gambling and encourage action among friends, family, patients, and clients on the availability of treatment, dated this 15th day of March, 2021. And our final proclamation this evening was brought forward by Councilmember Jayraj. And this proclamation says, whereas there are currently around 9,000 Tamilians residing within Washington state, and the celebration of their heritage would support the recognition of their unique native traditions. And whereas the Tamil language is central to Tamil identity and is recognized as one of the world's longest surviving written and spoken languages, dating back more than 2,500 years. The Tamil language is widely spoken in southern India, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Canada, as well as many communities around the world. And whereas the Tamil community has made significant contributions to our state's diverse culture and population, including preserving and promoting peace, togetherness, and the rich heritage of the Tamil language. And whereas Washington state is committed to encouraging and preserving Native cultures and heritage within our incredibly diverse community. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim March 9th, 2021 as Tamil Heritage Day and encourage all residents to join me in this special observance dated this 15th day of March, 2021. And Councilmember Jayraj, I was not very familiar with Tamil. Can you give us just a brief understanding of what this is?
It is a language and a culture that dates back to 300 BC, and it's remained the same, language and the written language as well. So I'm proud of the language. I even speak it. In fact, I've already written a thing to say, and I'm going to do that right now. Vanakkam, Romba Nandri, Your Honor. Enoda Peru, James Jayraj. Now we're Auburn, Washington Council member. Very simply put, greetings. Thank you very much, Your Honor. My name is James Jayraj, and I am I'm a council member in Auburn, Washington. It's just kind of, the grammar is a little different. So the proclamation means a lot to not only me, but my fellow Tamils who are now part of the American fabric. We've come here and lived here for years. Personally, I've lived here for 35 years, and I'm as good as apple pie. But I also bring the culture with me, and I speak the language as well. As I said, our language dates back to 300 BC, and they found relics even in Egypt, where the language was written on clays pots. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. You would recognize some names, what Tamils. Vice President Kamala Harris is half Tamil. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal supposedly was born in South India in Madras, which is the Tamil state. But I believe she might be a Telugu or another sect, but she was born there. Then there's Sundar Pichai, who is the Google CEO, and the actor Mindy Kaling. So, and you have me.
We do indeed. And we are very thankful.
And I want to thank, on behalf of all the Tamils living in our state, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Jayraj. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. All right, we will move on Tonight, under appointments, we have for the Transportation Advisory Board, City Council to confirm the following appointments to the Transportation Advisory Board for 3-year terms expiring December 31st, 2023. We have Cheryl Rakes, the Downtown Auburn Cooperative, and Cynthia Rapier, Green River College. Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to appoint Cheryl Rakes and Cynthia Rapier to the Transportation Advisory Board for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey, any other comments?
No, Mayor, I think you covered it very well. And as always, we just appreciate our people coming forward and serving on boards and commissions, and we thank them for their service.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, if you would please unmute. All those in favor of the appointments to the Transportation Advisory Board, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Passes. I don't believe we have any agenda modifications this evening.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Under new business, Deputy Mayor, I would like to bring up one item. Last week at your study session, there was discussion of support for grocery workers and the potential for hazard pay. And I would like to recommend that you and I determine yourself and 2 other members to form an ad hoc committee to do some research into that topic to bring back to the full council at a study session, at a near future study session. And if that's all right, you and I can discuss, and then we can acknowledge who is on that ad hoc committee at the study session next week.
That works fine for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And council, if any of you have an interest in serving on the ad hoc committee, if you could send me an email letting me know that, please don't send it to the deputy mayor. We don't want to cause any issues with discussion between council members, but if you would send the email to me, I would appreciate that. And then Deputy Mayor DeCoursey and I will determine the ad hoc committee. Thank you. All right. We have no public hearings this evening. We will move to audience participation. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to comment to City Council on any issue. Currently, it is virtual participation. Participants can submit written comments via mail, fax, or email. All written comments must be received prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the scheduled meeting and must be 350 words or less. Please mail comments to City of Auburn. Attention, Sean Campbell, City Clerk, 25 West Main Street, Auburn, Washington, 98001. Please fax comments to attention, Sean Campbell, City Clerk, at 253-804-3116. Or you may email your comments to publiccomment@auburnwa.gov. Sean, did we have public comment for this evening?
Yes, Your Honor. I received public comment from Maureen Goulet, Christina Harris, Marina Coleman, Aaron1 Ginny Girl at gmail.com, Lori McLeod, Nancy Tristan, and Terry Lake regarding hazard pay for grocery workers. And I received comment from Bob Zimmerman regarding propane tank safety.
Thank you, Sean. And council, I believe you have received all of those emails. All right, we will move on to, we have no correspondence for this evening, so we will move to our current ad hoc committee reports. Council ad hoc committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendation to the city council, if any. We have one right now, and that is the Finance Ad Hoc Committee, and that is chaired by Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Council Ad Hoc Finance Committee, consisting of Council Member Jayaraj and myself, reviewed 153 pages of 2021 claims vouchers totaling $10 million, dated March 1st at 3.1 million and March 15th at 5.9 million, 2021 respectively. The committee also reviewed payroll vouchers for the periods February 10th through March 9th, 2021, in the total amount of 5.3 million. The committee did not have any questions for the City of Auburn Finance Department regarding these vouchers. Therefore, upon completion of our review, we recommend council approval of these vouchers. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent agenda this evening consists of the minutes of the February 16th, 2021 regular council meeting, minutes of the February 22nd, 2021 and March 8th, 2021 study sessions, claims vouchers and payroll vouchers as described and recommended by Councilmember Baggett, and Public Works project number CP 1926, which is a construction project for arterial street preservation on 15th Street Northwest.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council or any items that you would like removed from the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed? please
Aye. Sorry.
No, my apologies. I thought I had already heard you. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, we have no unfinished business this evening. Resolution number 5585, a resolution expressing solidarity with farmers protesting the passage of the farming bills in India and support of Washington residents adversely affected. Councilmember Jayaraj.
Thank you, Your Honor. I like to make a motion on resolution number 5585.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to second that motion, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Jayaraj.
Thank you, Your Honor. This motion, resolution number 5585, is in regards to the City Council to adopt resolution 5585. The City of Auburn Council expresses solidarity with farmers protesting the passage of the farming bills in India, supports Washington residents adversely affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councilmember Troutman?
Yes, I was under the understanding that we might bring this to study session so we could be able to ask further questions and everything, because I do have a little bit of concerns of us passing a resolution for a different country, especially when we have several issues here locally. But I would be willing to support this if our native Indians in our city or state were having concerns and issues with being rebelled against. I see that our Asian community are being targeted right now, being attacked. Their businesses are being, attacked. They're being beat. And I don't see us supporting those, that community. So I just feel like if we're going to be supporting other nations or nationalities in other countries, then we should stop and support the people that live here and work with us and in our state and in our cities. So my concern is just that we are opening up a can of worms, and we need to take care of our council duties here in our local city and our state.
Thank you. And Councilmember Trout Manuel, I will remind you that early last summer, it was either a resolution or a proclamation, I'm not recalling which, about violence against Asians in our community because of the backlash of COVID-19. So we did have recognition of violence during COVID. So we have done some. I was working with Brenda Goodson Moore, our DEI manager, about perhaps doing a video with all of us on denouncing violence of any sort within our communities. So just wanted you to know what is going on.
Okay, and I also have heard from women that are farm workers, migrant farm workers out there, and I have heard how bad they have it, how they've been targeted as sexual slaves, and we have not even approached that. So I just feel we have to be, as the city council, we don't always have to jump on the bandwagon with Seattle and with other cities. I think that we need to, take care of our city and our citizens, and that's where I'm coming from.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Stearns.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Jay Raj. This is really important step that we can take to fight injustice. And we're fortunate and we're privileged to be able to exercise our voice, and I'm always proud to exercise it for important reasons, important causes. And I just want to thank the courage of my fellow council member for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too am speaking in favor of this resolution, and I appreciate the words by my fellow council member Trout Manuel as well. And I know that there are many very important issues out there related to social justice, violence against women, violence against Indigenous women, farm workers, all sorts of issues. And I would encourage this council to identify those issues and to bring them forward if we feel strongly about them. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilmember Brown, you make an excellent point, as well as other council members. I have a concern that we set a precedent. Now, I do understand that, yes, we did pass a resolution related to violence in terms of being more generic, if you will. I have no issues with having a generic resolution that literally condemns acts of violence or oppression or those types of things going on. I do have a problem when we single out one specific nation. And as we've mentioned before, Council has not taken a position on international affairs in times past. And I am concerned that doing this now, not that I don't have a compassion for what's going on and have a deep-rooted sympathy for those who are affected or afflicted, because nobody should be treated this way, no matter where they live on this planet. But if for us to take a position on this now, I think of like where it's going to end. How many more international resolutions will this council have to undertake? And when do we do that? How do we do that? And what are the contexts of doing that as well? So I have an issue with it. And I'm not condemning those folks that are afflicted by this. I am supportive of that. I'm not supportive of entering into an international resolution for this, nor I'm not quite sure what impact this has in relation to only a handful of other cities in Washington State. And I don't know if others across the nation have done this. And I know Congress is looking at taking some of this up as well. But I'm not quite sure what the impact would be if the city of Auburn adopts this.
Thank you. Are there any other comments before we put this to a vote? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of Resolution 5585, please unmute and say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no.
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 All right, the vote passes 5-2. And Sean, I believe you were able to capture the vote. All right. Thank you, council. We will move on to resolution number 5587, a resolution authorizing the mayor to grant an easement to Puget Sound Energy Incorporated, PSE, for the purpose of installing underground power facilities for the Academy Water Pump Station 1 replacement project, CP 1916. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 5585.
Thank you, Councilmember Baggett.
I'm sorry, 5587.
87, yes.
Get it right there, Claude.
Yes.
Yes, I second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
And Mayor, I think you've explained it very well. It's installing underground power facilities at the Academy of Water Pump Station and replacement project. We've talked about this many times, so I'm good to go.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, if you would please unmute. All those in favor of resolution 5587, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. All right, we have come to the item on the agenda for mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and city council may report on significant items associated with their appointed positions on federal, state, regional, and local organizations. And we will begin with Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items really quickly. On the 4th of March, I attended the Growth Management Policy Board meeting. We have a regular monthly meeting on the first Thursday of every month. And the topic at this particular meeting was the regional housing strategy. So there's been a number of areas where the Puget Sound Regional Council has worked closely with cities and other groups to identify, along with those already working on this, our regional housing needs. And we have tremendous needs in our community, as we know, and it continues to be an issue that we all are sensitive to. For example, between 2020 and 2050, it's now identified that the region needs 810,000 additional housing units to accommodate future growth. That includes affordable housing, we've talked many times, but 810,000 units in the next 30 years, which is in my opinion, a fairly daunting task. And then also, lastly, we talked about the impact on moderate income households who spend the majority of their income on housing. And of course, those who are in the category of making less than $20,000 a year are severely cost burdened. The majority of those folks are severely cost burdened, meaning they pay much more of their income toward rent and utilities than other folks do. And of course, those making over $100,000 a year are those that are least impacted by this. And there's also a fairly interesting subsection of this where the $20,000 to $35,000 category range are both cost burden and severely cost burden. So that range number actually overtakes those who make less than $20,000 a year. So about 80% of the folks in that income category are cost burdened or severely cost burdened, and about 65% of those households making $35,000 to $50,000 a year are cost burdened, with about 20% of those being severely cost burdened. So it's a huge problem that we need to continue to deal with. And as we come out of this pandemic, and as costs may escalate, increase, we may see increases in rent. We also know, again, that with the potential eviction cliff that may be coming, that we may have other issues that we'll be dealing with along with that. And then lastly, last week, we had the National League of Cities annual conference where we would normally go to Washington, D.C. We did not go last year as a very precautionary measure as the mayor took. I'm glad we did take that measure. And this year, the meeting was held entirely virtually. I serve on the Community and Economic Development Committee. We met on Sunday the 7th, and we had a very, very long and productive meeting. There's 46 of us from across the nation who are members of that committee. And the main topic on that committee again was the housing issues that we all face again, and homelessness. And currently it's been identified that there are over 600,000 unsheltered individuals in our country every night, 600,000. So, and these are not people that are couch surfing, staying with relatives. These are people that are actually unsheltered, sleeping outdoors in their tents or wherever they can find. And again, just a huge burden. And what we always identify during these meetings is that the issues we face in Auburn, Washington are no different than the people in Auburn, California, or Auburn, Alabama, or any other areas face. We're all facing the same issues related to affordable housing, lack of resources, and the tremendous issues we all face regarding the homelessness issue. And of course, again, as we come out of pandemic, what happens to those folks that are renters and perhaps mortgage owners who may not survive this in relation to places to live, which would increase the homelessness population across our nation. That is my report.
Thank you. We will move to Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Yes, on March 7th to the 10th, I also joined National Leagues of Cities, and I belong to the Human Development Committee, and we met on the 7th. And Stephanie Martinez Ruckman, she sent our celebration of what was passed. She sent us an email saying the American Rescue Plan Act passed the House this afternoon by the votes of 220 to 211. It's going to be signed by the president this week, according to the White House press secretary. The issues that they were so excited about passing has to do with agriculture. The bills provided fundings for agriculture nutrition programs, including extending SNAP and the pandemic EPT Pro to keep families fed through the pandemic. Schools and institutions of higher education to safely open schools, addressing learning loss, supporting students and staff, including support for the broadbands for students. Broadband was one of the highest issues, and also homelessness and affordable housing at all of the different sections that I went to, and they broke out, and those are the highest issues in all of the different states and cities that we're talking about. They also passed the child care to help sustain children care provided and extend child care assistance to 857,000 children. COVID-19 vaccination, testing, treatments, and prevention, especially for hands to reach community and areas. Mental health and substance use disorder services. That was another issue that they said was passed, and they were very excited. There's probably about another 10 other items that they were so excited to pass. The tribal government service, that was another one that they passed. Supporting healthcare workers, transportation workers, federal employees, veterans, and targeting population. It was really exciting to see that out of all of the staff from National Leagues of Cities, there was 10 of them that were on there that worked very hard, and we're up there at the Capitol lobbying for all the committees, and they were excited that we got the fundings. It's going to supply, let's see, it says, this is truly a history. Under the CARES Act, only the top 34 cities received money directly from the federal government. 6,000 cities, towns, and villages received nothing from the CARES Act. Now, all of us are going to be getting some money. So that is, oh, and then The other thing I did is I had the opportunity to shadow Kent the other day with Director Tate to go around and look at our homelessness in Auburn. And it was really an eye-opening. I think that all of us should take that opportunity and shadow Ken one day and see what he has to go and walk in his footsteps. It was, he told me to dress warm and to wear my grubbies, and I did. And we walked into the swamp, you know, and I fell in one of them. I fell in a hole, and it came up to about half of my leg, and I pulled out. But I think that each and every one of us need to ask him to take you out there and see what he goes through. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I represent our city on the King County Regional Transit Committee, which deals primarily with Metro, but also interfaces with the Sound Transit organizations for our region. And, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly changed Metro services, as we all know. This predominantly is the bus services, and that has affected, as of early March of 2021, following several rounds of reductions and adjustments, Metro is operating currently at approximately 85% of the pre-COVID service levels. Now, obviously, as are many of our cities going through the problems of revenues coming in, which make them allow them to operate predominantly on sales tax revenues. So I think working with the Metro organization through King County and everything, we have come to respond to some of these long-term emergency service reductions and a major service restructure, which is going to be proposed for September of this year. Will try to put many of these routes back into circulation that have been terminated for various reasons in ridership. One of the things, the primary emphasis on changing some of these routes or restarting some of these routes in different areas will be in the South End, because the South End has notoriously been underserved for transit for many years. And the emphasis is going to be on equity. Now, we identify equity as prioritized restorations on routes with high opportunity scores defined based on the proportion of population of persons of color, poverty, low income, linguistically diverse, well, there's a mouthful, disability, and immigrant refugee of those people born abroad. So emphasis is going to be placed on that. And of course, ridership and the geographic areas here of our community. And of primary interest to our area here in the South End will be the generation of the rapid ride I-line. Now that is scheduled for implementation possibly as early as 2022 and supplemented by funding from King County. So this will be a very important line for our South End. So we're in hopes of doing that. We will be having our March meeting in 2 more days, and we will be going through all of these materials and coming up with recommendations to the King County Executive and King County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Baggett. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to start off by thanking Mayor Backus for appointing me to the Valley Regional Fire Authority Board, the governance board that I represent the city of Auburn on, along with her, and Deputy Mayor DeCoursey. And just this last meeting that we held, we approved the Valley Regional Fire Authority 2021 through 2027 Capital Facilities Plan, and it is an extensive plan. We're in a growing region of the community, and this plan anticipates that growth, and will make adjustments in growing capital facilities and adjusting those facilities in a way that will reflect that growth in calls and the demand for services for our city. So very pleased at the professional nature of this plan, and I'm confident that we can rely on the Valley Regional Fire Authority to respond to our needs in our city, as well as Algona and Pacific, which we cover. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Stearns.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also attended the National League of Cities Conference, and my second virtual conference. I've never been there in person, but it was a really, really good conference. Everyone else has mentioned a lot of stuff that they were able to take away from it. I took away from it that there was great news for cities contained in the American Rescue Plan that Congress passed and President Biden signed into law. So that's just really wonderful, as well as with provisions in there that allow cities to expand broadband services, and also the help that people will get with paying for their health care. That's really important. I also attended a meeting on the last day organized by the Association of Washington Cities with Senators Cantwell and Senators Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray and their staff. And it was just incredibly informative. They do such great work for us, and they gave a lot of detail about the bills that were before them, and looking forward to seeing how those go. Lastly, I just want to say on March 4th, I attended the King County Sexual Assault Resource Center's first ever virtual Be Loud breakfast, and just wanted to pass on that sexual assault is any sexual contact or behavior that occurs without express consent. And the King County Sexual Assault Resource Center exists to empower survivors, their families, with information and the resources they need to overcome the trauma of sexual assault. And they have a 24-hour resource line that's 888-998-6423, which is also 888-99-VOICE. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stearns. That was a good virtual fundraiser. I was there as well. Councilmember Jayraj.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm pushing all kinds of buttons here tonight. On March the 9th, I attended the Equity and Inclusion Team meeting. That was our initial meeting with 13 members. So it was more of an introductory session. We went around introducing ourselves for right now, and there's more to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Malinga.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. On March 2nd, we had the Children Youth Advisory Board meeting, and they have a program, Best Start for Kids. 3 area of focus tonight I want to talk about is they have summer programs for kids that focus on 5 to 12-year-olds that they're supporting. They also have 5 centers in the county that provide social, emotional, mental, and physical health that supports young people. And then they also have a program that's for transitioning to adulthood that has services for 14 to 24-year-olds. And they support high school completion, support for the post-secondary education, training, employment, and social and emotional support for that age group. So I attend those meetings on the first Tuesday every month. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, just a couple of the meetings that I have attended through Sound Transit. As many of you are aware, many of the projects from ST3 are being deemed unaffordable at this point in time due to the rapid increase in costs. And so the board is responsible for looking at realignment once the project is deemed unaffordable. And so we are going through that process right now at our board meetings, but I'm also part of the realignment committee representing South King County to look at the different criteria that the entire board put together to identify how are we going to move forward and what's going to be most important. Equity, of course, is one. Connecting centers, the amount of time that the project has been in place. So like our parking structure was part of ST2. So depending on which of the 8 criteria is looked at, our parking structure and that of Kent show up in different phases. Either they're a priority 1, and depending again on the criteria, it could be all the way down to a priority 4. And so I just want to let everyone know that I will continue to work on behalf of South King County to ensure that we get the very best possible projects built in South King County. The Federal Way link is not part of this discussion because it is already in construction phase. So this is all projects as part of ST3 that have not been put into construction phase. So I will keep you posted on that. As you can understand, we are talking billions of dollars here. And so it is critical that we get this right. And so I am both feeling thankful and wish I wasn't part of a committee that had to be talking about these types of issues. Also, we swore in a new police officer on March 4th, Julie Jacobo, who came to us from Lewis County. And so we are excited to have her join us. We are not fully staffed in the police department. We have several who are out on some type of leave, but Chief O'Neill continues to reassure me that we are going to be fully staffed at some point in time. Isn't that right, Chief O'Neill? That's correct. That is correct. He said it was. And on Friday the 5th, as the mayor of Auburn, as well as DECA alumni, I had the good fortune of being on the Auburn High School DECA alumni panel. It wasn't all Auburn High School DECA alumni, but it was for seniors who are in DECA in King County and actually in this region. And we talked about what DECA has helped us with throughout our careers. And it's always fun to see young people and what they are doing and their enthusiasm and some of the challenging questions they asked us about how DECA has played into our lives. And so really appreciated that opportunity. The Regional Policy Committee, we met on Wednesday, March 10th. And as you probably are aware, and former Deputy Mayor and Council Member Bill Pelosa served on RPC for several years. There are issues that must go through RPC before they are voted on by the King County Council. And one of those items that we are going to be voting on at a special meeting on Friday, March 26th is the Best Starts for Kids levy, whether we will support it moving forward for the City Council or for the King County Council to put it on as a ballot measure on an upcoming ballot. I believe it's in August. I believe they're putting it on the primary ballot. So if any of you out there have any comments, thoughts about the Best Starts for Kids levy, please feel free to email me or call my office to let me know your support or concerns of it. I will tell you that the original levy was 14 cents per $1,000 of assessed value of your home. And currently, because the rate will go down year over year, it's at 11.5 cents per $1,000. The new Best Starts for Kids levy proposal is at 19 cents per $1,000. The King County Executive is wanting to include additional funding for childcare in this new proposal. So more to come on that. Just wanted to let you know that we will be voting on that. And that is it. And since we have already had our executive session for the evening, there is no further business. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.